This week's guest is doing some really, really innovative things in the education space. I had a chance to dig into his website, which, by the way, the website is phenomenal. It is a really, really nice website. But as we're going through this, just found it to be so incredibly unique and different and something needed. So we'll explain a little bit more about what we're talking about. But welcome to the show, Bryan Robbins from Hot Rod High School.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jay. Thanks for having me.
So when I first heard about Hot Rod High School, one, the name itself is very catchy, right? And before we got on, you're like, I don't know anything about marketing. I'm like, I think you know more about marketing than you think you do. It is it's a very catchy name, and uh, I think it's one of those things where it kind of gets you to take a peek at it at first, and then the more and more you look at it, you're like, oh man, this is cool. So tell us, let's kick things off right away with what is Hot Rod High School?
Hot Rod High School has been something that's been in the back of my mind for a long time now. We had originally, I used the term Hot Rod High School when we first got these engine kits that are these Model T kit cars for our shop here at Meadowdale High School. And Foundry 10, a great company, gave us the money to do a project that the kids would be really interested in, and we called it Hot Rod High School, and it was to mimic Hot Rod U from Universal Tech, but just at the high school level. And from there, it's just always been that that was the nickname of this place. Um, you fast forward up to the pandemic, and everything shifted, everything went on to online, and I knew that we had to do something to give those kids an education that was worthwhile. All the other teachers that I talked to, they were just taking their textbooks and having like a day where everybody came by, picked up the textbook, and they get on Zoom and go, "Okay, yeah, turn to chapter 65. That's today's assignment." And doing that for auto shop was ridiculous. You can't, textbooks are important to teach concepts. You can't learn automotive from a textbook. You can read all the books on it you want. You got to get your hands dirty. So I came up with this plan where I was going to get a bunch of like Briggs and Stratton engines, toolkits. Um, we made like different little projects like wiring harnesses, and we got voltmeters, everything that we could think of for these take-home projects. And then every month, the students would swing by and pick up one of these kits and then drop off their old one. And I made this online curriculum where I went through on Zoom and taught them how to do that month's project. And they did a newspaper story about it. I'd be a millionaire now if I would have already had this Hot Rod High School idea and already had these kits, because I got calls from shop teachers, from CTE directors all across the country going like, "Can we buy these?" And I was like, no, I had to start months ago and work like 12-hour days getting all of this put together. Like, you need to do a ton of work uh, to be able to get there. You're too late. Um, and after the pandemic ended, I wanted to forget about it so bad. I wanted to go back to normal. I did not want to deal with any thought of that COVID time. So it all just sat on the shelf, and I went back to teaching how I normally did. And it wasn't until last year that me and my wife were talking. She's like, "That stuff was good. You should do something with it." And I was like, I don't know. It seems like like everyone always says, like opening a business is a ton of work, and um, it's so much work to be able to do it. But I came up with it and put everything together and made a kit out of it. And I've worked with some homeschool moms to refine like what do they want to see out of a curriculum, because I realized I didn't do a good job of explaining how to teach it. I just explained the things that I did, and I did it the way I do in the classroom. The homeschool experience is just different than that. And so I now have these kits that where you get an engine, you get like a micrometer, you get all these different jobs that you can do, and then a toolkit as well. And that's for the student gets to keep all that stuff when they're done. Our newest one that we're about to launch, in fact, you're the first person outside of my family that I've mentioned it to, but found out that I could get for about the same price point. It's a mini bike. It's a little 50cc mini bike. And I was realizing like I can just make new videos for my curriculum.
Oh,
I can teach how to rebuild brakes with using this mini bike. We can take out the motor, do a rebuild. It's on a two-stroke, but still you're doing an engine rebuild. And when it's done, the kid gets to keep all the tools. They get to keep the mini bike. And think of that hook in there of like, okay, no, you don't get to do your hot rod high school homework until you got to finish up your math and your social studies. And you know it's, to me, that's the big difference between this curriculum and what most homeschool curriculums are, which is this one belongs under the Christmas tree. This one belongs like at the birthday party because it's something actually really exciting to open up and get into. um, can't do that with a textbook.
no, I love the mini bike idea too. It's something that's cool. I think so many of us growing up were tinkerers or wanted to tear into something like that anyway. And implementing that into education and part of your learning, how cool is that? What a brilliant idea. That is really good.
Well, yeah, it was just one of those that worked out so well when it's like, okay, no, it's not an automobile, but man, it has a lot of the same systems. And to find out that, you know, um, I can't really commit to the price on this right now, but I believe I can deliver it for its really razor thin margins, but for about $500 plus tax. And that includes the mini bike, the toolkit, and the curriculum. Um, and like I said, I'm
Man,
not actually making money on that, but for right now, it's more about proving the concept and getting the feedback from the students and from their families on what worked, what didn't work. I can move the price point later on to where I can make money if this whole idea proves to be viable. But I also think like I have a message that I want to get out there. I have a way of teaching, a way of looking at the world that I think is important. And a big part of this isn't so much that I need to, I don't need to be a multimillionaire so much as I need to get more people to hear that message and to kind of believe in the dignity of a hard day's work, and that work is not a dirty four-letter word.
yeah. And to make it fun to start with, right? Like before there's any pressure on you to like go in a shop setting and have to produce or even into, if you're going into a tech school classroom, like it's, I just talked to a high school instructor not too long ago, and he said one of the things that he was struggling with, and this was more of an urban community, but he's like, I have kids coming in that we have to teach them the difference between a flathead and a Phillips screwdriver in
Hmm.
high school. And so something like this takes something that would be kind of a painful lesson or something that's very simple, and helps them understand. And if they get it running, that's the whole point, because then you have a mini bike to ride, right?
Hmm.
Like it'd be pretty fun. But it is, I don't think enough kids anymore, like when I was a kid, you go find like a junk lawnmower and tear into it, and like you go, I just see how things work and operate, and hopefully you get it back together so that you can kind of just really start to understand how things work. And conceptually with this, you get to do that along with some aid of like, somebody teaching you things that you need to do. I think that's such a cool idea.
Yeah, thanks. I'm hoping it works out because that's the one thing as I've seen is that most homeschool curriculums do not cost nearly that much, but none of them come with like an engine and a toolkit or a mini bike or any of those other things. So I'm hoping
Yep.
that can lure some people in and get them to go down this path. Because the other thing about homeschoolers that I've been learning is just they come from really strong families. They come from really high values. They end up being really high caliber students where they can have miles in between where I am and where they are, and end up performing better than students that I see 2 hours a day, 180 days a year, right here in my own classroom.
Yeah. I mentioned this to you in our intro call, but our in my own family shop, uh, our two best technicians are young. They were homeschooled. They happen to hang out in the same circles, and same thing. Very, they have they're mature beyond their years. I will say, and they just they're a pleasure to have on our team, right? Like they just they're very respectful. They're they were raised the right way, and I think the homeschool piece had an element to it. So it is fascinating to me, and I think it's an untapped opportunity for our industry as a whole, right? Like if at least in the Midwest here, a lot of the homeschooled kids are you know either they could be on a farm, and it feels like a lot of them are already doing some things with their hands that are showing that work ethic and that ability to learn kind of that mechanical aptitude, if you will. So uh, I think when you had first mentioned that to me, it immediately kind of set off that alarm of like, oh my goodness, yes, there's probably there's a lot of homeschooled kids out there, and I'm sure there are a lot that would love to learn more about this specific topic and might not currently have the opportunity to get that. So I do think I don't know how many homeschooled kids there are out there, but I know there's a lot of them, and I do think there's a lot of opportunity for our industry as a whole.
Yeah, well, and the reason for homeschooling is it's so varied. But I've run into it now where people keep giving me leads and tips. You got to reach out to these people or these people. There's a whole motocross community where they have to do the big circuits and keep up with the races, and so they homeschool their kids because their kids are racing all year and wouldn't be able to go to school otherwise. There's junior drag racing communities that are the same way, that they're competing, and that's why they're homeschooled. And for a lot of our market, they're not tapping into this. Like for a lot of the training centers, like the people that come in, like the colleges that come in and advertise to us, they all come and advertise to us. And so, and they all do the circuit. All the same high schools see the same schools every year coming in and advertising to those students. And there's 4 million homeschoolers in this country right now.
Wow.
It was 900,000 prior to the pandemic. It got up to over 3 million in the last 2 years, and in the last 2 years, it's gone all the way up to 4 million. It's growing, and all these people that are marketing to the same people in the same schools are missing out on that pool. Um, and
Wow.
yeah, it's not going away anytime soon. Just the way that it's expanding.
Did you know that WrenchWay has partnered with ASE to grow School Assist? It's a free solution designed to help auto, diesel, and tech ed programs connect with local shops and dealerships. Thousands of schools across the country have used School Assist to get resources and support, including tool and equipment donations, advisory committee members, shop tours, guest speakers, and much more. With School Assist, WrenchWay and ASE are making it easier to bring education and industry together to promote and improve technician careers in automotive and diesel. School Assist will always be free to schools to help them connect students with the industry and get the resources they need. To learn more and sign up, visit wrenchway.com/school-assist. Link is also in the show notes. And I have to apologize because normally we talk about the individual first and then
Oh, yeah.
the topic second, but it was one of those things where as we're talking through it, I'm like, I'm so excited to talk about this in general. So you'll have to forgive me for kind of jumping ahead here a little bit, but I do think it will be a nice segue. So we'll tie everything together at the end. But I do want to kind of get back to you and talk about you, and then we'll shift again back to the the Hot Rod High School, and I think
Sure.
we'll tie it in nicely. But I I want to start this part by just asking you, like, what was it that drove you to get into to working on stuff, right? Like, like you're talking about the homeschoolers and how you're kind of creating this path for them. What was it for you that kind of got you into this?
This path was laid out for me from birth. It was inevitable. Um, my dad is automotive savant would be the way that I'd describe the guy. Um, his brain works differently. Um, he actually sold the rights to the first ever. It was a electric water pump, and he had just taken. It was like a little windshield motor or something like that, and had hooked a little belt up to it to run a regular water pump. Guy came by, saw it, asked if he could take some pictures of it, ended up trading trading away the rights to the idea for a case of oil, and and the almost the exact same design that we have over in the garage are sold commercially to this day. Um, and
Wow.
if you've ever heard of 240 Gordy Bonin,
Yeah.
um, Gordy Bonin's car was just another funny car. You know, they were a good team, but weren't really head and shoulders above the rest. They raced over in Denver, and my dad got drunk on the night after the race, and he was supposed to ride in the back with the car in the trailer and switch out the pistons from their high altitude pistons to their low altitude pistons as they were doing, you know, coming westward. Um, well, he was good and drunk and feeling pretty hungover, and he didn't do it. And they got to the next race, and he hit like 240, 241 mile an hour for the first time that a funny car had ever done that. And nobody on the crew could figure out what was going on until it torched the motor. And said the crew chief was just furious. But that ended up being their ace in the hole that they could do that. And for years, nobody could catch them, but they went through motors quicker than everybody else.
Oh
Um,
my goodness.
if you've ever heard of Jim Green's Green Elephant funny car, uh,
Yeah.
they won the world championship in 1973. And in 1974, NHRA switched to a point system so that the World Finals didn't define the championship anymore because there was no way that some podunk race team from Washington State could come down and beat, you know, like Don Garlits and all the big names of
Uh-huh.
the day. Um, and so yeah, they got a world championship title out of it, and my dad was the one who built that car. Um,
Man,
yeah,
you're not kidding. So
yeah.
was your dad was he primarily working on like dragsters, cars in general, or was he working in a shop as well? Like what was his deal?
Yeah, any kind of shop. He was bouncing around on different pit crews, and he he had his eyes set on he wanted to be a crew chief, and was working his way up toward doing that until 1990 when he got T-boned by a truck. He was pulling out of a gas station, and truck was doing about 60 miles an hour. T-boned him, and he said he looked down and he was sitting next to himself. His bottom half was
Oh,
over here and his top half was over here, and broke his back.
oh,
So yeah, my early memories are him hanging up in this sling that went over against the back cabinet there, and um, him learning how, you know, going through. He is the strongest guy I've ever met in my life, but learned how to walk again, but just never was the same. And he was a transmission builder at the time, but they couldn't find anything because he was so good at it. They were like, "We'll just set you up with this bench. We'll bring you the transmissions. You just rebuild them." And he just couldn't sit there at that point. Um, and that's when one of his friends, a guy named Al Young, who he's won every kind of championship in drag racing. He passed away just a couple of years ago, but he had won everything. And he told my dad, like, get into teaching. Just you have so much knowledge in your head. Just go into to be a teacher. And so uh, he started teaching, and he taught me how to weld when I was 5.
Oh
Um,
my.
yeah, had me, which I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old now, and I was like, I don't know. We could. My dad did it with me, but man, I don't know with them. They don't seem very coordinated. Um, and
I
yeah,
have an 8-year-old. I would agree.
yeah, built my first engine for my go-kart when I was 8, and ended up when I was 14, got a Model T Ford, that I'd saved up like every bit of allowance money I'd ever had to get the $2,000 to buy this. It was in pieces all throughout the back of this barn. And by the time I was 16, had the car all the way running and driving, um,
Wow.
and yeah, I drove that thing to school every day. It's a little Chevy 350 in a Model T Ford,
So
with
cool.
no roof, no fenders, and in Washington it rains all the time, so just soaking wet every day heading into school. But drag racing, let's see, in 2001, I won it was a junior drag racing, the Gold Crown Series championship, so I got a Wally up on the trophy shelf.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You're the second person on this show ever to have a Wally. Steve Johnson, who's a does drag bikes. We've had him on. He does a lot for the industry as well. But that I did not know you had a Wally. That is a pretty incredible feat. That's incredible.
Yeah, they are man, when I won the thing too, I did not realize like
It's a big deal.
just how rare it is to make it in there to where you can win one. My dad still doesn't have one. And so that's always been one of those things where one notch up on the old man on that one.
How cool is that? Oh,
Yeah.
so then that racing just really kind of sparked that fire then, huh? Like where you wanted to just continually work on things.
Yeah, cars and racing and all that stuff, that's what you did. There was no thought there or anything. I wanted to be a paleontologist when I was like from the time I was 5 until I was 14. And
Really?
then at 14, in ninth grade, they had us take this like college career test thing to figure out what career you wanted, and I put in paleontologist for mine. They said how you had to go to like 8 more years of school after you're done with high school, and you'd probably be making like around like 30 to 40,000 a year. And I was like, oh no, no,
That's not
never
for me.
mind. And yeah, I stopped having that dream later that day and just went, I can make a ton more money being a mechanic, and I, you know, don't really have to go to school for it. And I got an internship with uh, University Audi, so I ended up working over at the Audi dealership, and then when the internship ended, it just turned into full-time employment. So um, yeah, I was 17 when I started working over there. Um, it was that it was right before I went full time there that I got a job with Bob Gilbertson and his Trick Tank Funny Car team. So I got to be on the Trick Tank team, and actually because that was the dream for me is I wanted to be on a funny car pit crew. Um, and funny enough, like J.R. Todd, who's big name.
Yeah,
Um,
huge name.
yeah, me and him worked on the pit crew at the same time. Um, I had no idea that JR was going where he was going. He
He
was just
really blew up. Yeah.
yeah, and he was just another guy, but like our our career paths just went in such different ways. Um, from being at that same point there, 'cause yeah, I ended up they didn't renew me for the following season. I really thought I was the new guy on the totem pole, and he wanted to open up a spot for his nephew to be on the
Uh,
team. And yeah, it doesn't matter how good I did or how much I worked. I was the newest person, so I was the one that had to move over and make way. And so I went back to the Audi dealership, and that was just fine. Um, Left there and ended up working for Jim Green Performance Center. And actually, got to be there when he reunited with the Green Elephant Funny Car, and and got to work on that thing. So
So cool.
yeah, just following in my dad's footsteps there. And then um, when my dad got ready to retire, he told me, like, I did kind of like an internship almost with the school. My dad got sick and he needed to get a surgery, and so he was going to be out for like half the school year. And I just went into, I was not old enough for that. I was like 20 at the time, and went into the school district main office and said, "Hey, I could take over teaching that class." And the career and tech ed director went, "Wait, are you serious? You could?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. No, I took because my dad was my high school shop teacher. It's like I know how
Yeah.
the class runs. I could do that." He's, "Oh, that's great." And he pulls out this piece of paper, and it's an emergency career and tech ed teaching certificate. And he signs it, and then he has me sign it. And he goes, "Okay, welcome to the Edmond School District." And I was like, "Oh, wow,
That
okay, you
quick.
can, cool." My first week in here, I like no other teacher gets to beat me as far as like how bad the first week could go. Because I thought I had it. We had a Dodge Viper in here at the time, and a kid come up to me and goes, "Yeah, I'd really like to use a scan tool on the Viper." And I was like, "Oh, okay." It was parked outside at the time. I'm like, uh, "Go ahead, do all the stuff, but just do the key on engine off part. Don't actually start the car up for the second part, and just get that, and you'll be fine." And he said, "Okay." And then the next kid went, "Well, I want to do the Viper too," but he just got the keys from the other kid and didn't get the warning about not starting it up. Starts it up and lets his foot off the clutch and didn't realize it was in third gear. That thing launched forward, and it was sitting outside at the time. It was like an episode of Looney Tunes. It cut a perfect Viper-shaped hole, mirrors and all, through the door, ran right through the shop and pinned itself against the back wall, tires still spinning. I've been working here for 4 days and come running out, and he's got his arms out the window of the car and he's screaming, "I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Just turn it off." And I end up having to jump through the window and turn it off myself. And miraculously, it didn't hit anybody. And everyone
Oh,
ended up being okay. It's like, welcome to teaching. You really think you're cut out for this? Um, when those it was like 4 months that I did that substitute job, and I was so happy to go back to the shop after that. Um, but it did stay in my mind. And I worked, it would be like 5 more years that I'd worked over at a little shop called TLC Auto. I just loved it there. Tiny operation. It was me and two other mechanics, and then uh, the dad was the service manager, and the mom did the bookkeeping, and then their son was the head tech. And every Friday was a barbecue and stuff. It was a really cool place. But he wanted me to come up, and he was getting ready to retire. He wanted me to be the service advisor for the place. And he just liked how I could talk. He liked how I could explain things um, to the customers, and really kind of fully get them to comprehend why it was going to be so expensive to fix their car at the end of the day. Um, and I had, at that point too, I'd been taking night classes and gotten my teaching certificate. And um, I had my dad had retired, and I'd gotten the job teaching, and so I had switched to being part-time at the shop and then part-time at the school. And I was horrible. I was At that point, I was being miserable at both jobs. I was really bad at two things. Um, and I finally like had to make that decision. And the guys over at the shop there, they wanted me to stay. They wanted me to be the service advisor. I hated being a service advisor. That's such a hard job.
it is a
Um,
hard job.
the taking like those t telling people that they don't like their car anyway, and by the way, it's going to cost a lot to fix it. Like, I can't really fully explain just how difficult that is. Teaching has its own challenges, but it's so rewarding at the same time.
Right.
And so I ended up I left I left the shop and jumped all the way in on teaching, and it's been the right choice. But at the time, the money that they were offering me over there versus the money you could make as a teacher, like it,
It's hard.
yeah, it was a hard decision to make.
Things sure have changed since the old days of wrenching on vehicles in the driveway. Modern-day vehicles, hybrids, and EVs contain more than 10 million lines of code and require a keen understanding of technology to diagnose and repair. ASE certified technicians are in high demand, and the earnings of an ASE certified tech can be as much as 20% more than a non-certified technician. The launchpad to a high-tech career begins at ase.com/careers.
So when you went to teaching, so you're just at the high school then, right? Is this the same high school that you're currently at, or like how does that work?
Yep, I'm at the same high school. This is where I took my high school auto shop class. This is where my dad taught, and now I teach here. So this school opened in 1997. My dad was the only auto shop teacher from the time it opened, and then
Wow.
in 2014 or 2013 when he retired, I've been the only auto shop teacher here since. So it's yeah,
What's the name of the school?
Meadowdale High School.
Meadowdale High School. And it's what a cool side story, by the way, that there's only been two teachers in program history, you and your dad. Like that doesn't happen very often.
No, no, not at all. Um, and yeah, it ended up working out where when he was ready to retire, it was the same time that I was ready to take a step in one direction or another, and just went with my gut and went with this one.
How hard was it initially just putting together a lesson plan? Like I'm sure you learned a lot from your dad and could lean on your dad, but that's not the most natural thing in the world, is it? Like putting together a lesson plan going from the shop to the school, it's just not as natural as one would think, I don't think.
Remember when I said my dad was an automotive savant?
Yeah.
He was not that great of a teacher. Um, he now his students did amazing things. Like he ended up with students who were really great as long as they were into this stuff. He ended
Yeah.
up with a lot of students who never really took anything from it because he didn't attempt to meet anybody in the middle. He didn't try to reach out and to get the best out of everyone. Um, and he did not make lesson plans ever, even once. Kids would ask me when I was in the class, they're like, "Oh wait, you live with our teacher. What are we doing today?" And I was like, "I don't know. He doesn't know either." Because I would ask him like over dinner and be like, "So what are we doing tomorrow in class?" It's like, I'll figure that out tomorrow." Um, and quite literally, he would come into class. He'd tell some story about like his old, battles back in the day with this car, or this customer, or that race, and all that stuff. And then he'd realize like, oh, like 45 minutes have gone by in their block classes. So he's like, okay, so we got about an hour left in class. Let's see. You fix the brakes on the Subaru. You replace the radiator on the Honda, and this group back over here is over on the tire machines. Okay, go to work. And that was his lesson plan. I tried that out for the first couple of years because that's how he did it, and so I figured that's how I do it. The amount of like just pit of your stomach, just anxiety that left with me, left me having to come up with plans for how the classes were going to go. And my biggest thing was realizing like we have 100 students or it's like 120 students that come here through here per day. I got 4 lifts. um, I have to manage who's working on what and when, so that when this class is doing alignments, that this class has something they can do. And so it was always this juggling act of keeping enough resources around so that each class was on whatever unit they were on, and then basically being able to switch the two or three groups, um, always in tandem with each other so that each job got done. But the lesson planning was so needed. But It's not easy, and it's I'm the only auto shop teacher in our district.
Wow.
So yeah, they tell us to do like we have PLCs, these professional learning communities. I'm just by myself. Like everybody else has their group they go to, and then there's the shop teacher, and they keep on trying to, maybe we could put you with the science teachers, or maybe we could put you with the home ec teachers. And it's like, yeah, we don't have a lot to talk about though.
Were you able to lean on some of the other teachers when it, like when you got to the point to where you're like, okay, I need to start putting together some form of lesson plan? Were there other teachers from other subjects that would help you with that, or was that something where you were you able to find resources to be able to put that together?
Um, no, I'm horrible at that. I'm an only child, and so I just always learn that, you figured it out.
Yeah.
And that's how I did it. I ended up joining it was a cohort of teachers um, that were doing it was like this teaching study they were putting on, but it was the same year I was getting married, and it paid $2,500 if you went to like this. It was a meeting a week every week for the school year, where you had to come up with this lesson plan that you were all going to teach in the class. And I was like, yeah, I'll sign up for the extra $2,500. That's perfect for this particular year. Um, and because I went into that, and it was with so me being the only auto shop teacher, and then I was paired with a science teacher and a math teacher. And we came up with, it was Energy Armageddon was the our lesson that we came up with. And we were running out of electricity, and electric cars were coming, and the power grid was going down. And the premise to the students was we got to come up with alternate ways of producing electricity. Um, and I hated the lesson. It did not work for my class at all. But the amount I learned about how to properly build a lesson plan that could be, coordinated and rolled out, paid so many dividends afterward.
I can imagine. And I, it's funny because I think when you think of a school, you think of structure and having, all of these, I don't know, a lot of the red tape you've got to go through to be able to teach or to do some of this. And it sounds like it was fairly hands off for you, right? Like where you didn't have somebody kind of just looking over your shoulder all the time. It was your program to run, and you got to run with it. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, our district seems to have taken the premise that if nobody gets hurt, do what
We're
you have to
good.
do to teach them. And since there's never a complaint from down the auto shop, and also I take some of the most challenging, some of the most difficult students that the district has to offer. It's an inter-district program, so if a kid goes to one of our 4 other high schools and they want to take auto shop, put them on the bus, they come here, take the class, and go back. And I ended up working with some really, what everyone else calls really difficult students, and they thrive in my class. Because a kid's really difficult, yeah, if they have, if they got ADHD and they got some, a bad home life, and they don't got good structure and all that kind of stuff. And then you're going to put them into your classroom, and you're going to tell them that you have to sit still for the next 90 minutes and focus on these
Like
math
torture.
problems. Then yeah, you are going to deal with a difficult student. Well, you put them in here, and I go, okay, I'm going to teach you science, but I'm going to teach you, like, when we talk about like differentials and pressure and things like that, we're going to go take this, cooling system, and we're going to drain all the air out of it with and refill it with a vacuum. They're going to see this stuff and understand these concepts from that hands-on perspective. Um, it's just different than reading it out of a book.
It is. It is. And I was that way in high school, right? Like I didn't care to sit in a classroom. It was hard to keep my attention for that long. Probably still would be. I'd probably be worse now if I went
Hmm.
and sat in a class, right? And I noticed that when I'm at conferences, we go to a lot of conferences and that type of thing. Uh and I think I always like if I'm speaking in front of a group, I have that empathy for them, especially if you're doing it after lunch, right? Like everybody's like,
Yeah.
just like trying not to fall asleep. And you're like, try to make it interactive then, or do something that makes it a little bit more engaging. But yeah, same thing here. And I think a lot of people, especially the people that are good with their hands, probably struggle with that. And what I love about what you just said there is that you are still getting an education in science. You talked about your background in racing, and I grew up racing go-karts and then into cars. And I saw somebody put together like a graphic of the things you can learn in racing especially as a kid. And you've got geometry, you've got different types of sciences, different types of maths, marketing, even marketing, being able to I remember putting together a sponsorship letter when I was like 10 years old, right? And it is there's so much to learn from different things that I think do have a really good big impact on you. And it's just, I think, in an applied fashion, where if you are passionate about cars, there's a lot of all of this stuff involved with cars or trucks or whatever it is that you're working on, if you look at it through that lens. And if I'm that student sitting there, that is far more appealing than opening up the algebra book and starting to dive in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting to learn your geometry by doing an alignment, especially when you're able to bring in your own car. And like that's one of my favorite things is having a student bring in their own car. All of a sudden, that kid who would not follow my directions, who's breaking stuff on like our donated vehicles, is following the book perfectly because this project I have to drive home when it's done. Um, you can get more of a hook with kids in a lot of different ways. And one of the biggest ways is just the fact that, I mean, I don't even feel like I'm a teacher. The shop is the teacher. I'm a facilitator. I make sure they understand how to use the equipment. I make sure that they don't get hurt. And the shop does the teaching. Like, hats off to all those teachers out there that are trying to teach like math and science and social studies, and it's just them and a whiteboard and a group of kids whose hormones are out of control and they're trying to wrestle with this. Like, no, thank you.
I give all teachers a lot of credit. And I I think even for shop teachers of any type, specifically in our industry, the automotive and diesel side and collision side, I think one of the things that we're seeing right now is there is a pretty big lack of teachers, right? Like there's not enough teachers to fill all of the open spots. And I think that's one of the things where I've talked to two other teachers who came from a technical background that worked in a shop. Some that went straight from, I've talked to one just recently that went right from school, went from college into teaching.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was, and he's been in it now for like 15 years, like a really, really good teacher. But I think when they look at it, it's similar to you, where a lot of them are saying, in their head, okay, if I went back to being a tech, I could make this versus my salary at the school, which is this. And like, it's that hard trade off that I think a lot of teachers have. And I think the best teachers are in it for the right reasons, just like you talked about the impact that you're having on young lives. And I do, I look back to my own shop teacher from school that, will forever have a special place in my heart, right? It was my favorite class to go to by far. And that person was an absolute legend, as I'm sure your dad was. I'm sure you are now. But like that was the teacher, right? Like everybody loved this teacher. Everybody wanted to be in that class. And there is maybe this I don't know, this legacy that you can leave doing that you probably can't being in a bay somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Like, if you're looking for immortality, uh, being a shop teacher is a pretty close way. Like, I've had two shop teachers. I've had my dad and then Skip Carlson, who's another just absolute legend around here. Um, and you think about that, if you had a shop class in high school, you remember your shop teacher. I can honestly say I don't remember a lot of my other teachers.
Same.
Um, but I remember the shop teacher, and um, that it does become like this thing where you become a little bit immortal because those stories are going to live on longer than you do. And the other thing is, like, the number one compliment I can get is the kids who come to me and they would say, like, I was going to drop out, like I was going to drop out of high school 100%. The only reason why I still come to high school is for this class right here. And that's when it's that sit back and like, wow, okay, what I'm doing does have an impact. Like, the fact that this was the only thing keeping this kid coming to school. I'm not one of those people that thinks that like school is bogus, and that, my class is important, but the rest of them aren't. Like, no, it is important to get through all that. But it's humbling to realize, like, what I'm doing here was the last straw, and it's for a lot of them. It's probably a good 20 to 30 kids a year that say some rendition of,
I believe
if it
it.
weren't for this class, I wouldn't come back.
I believe it. And it's just having the wherewithal to stoke that fire of something that interests them. And in a lot of cases, I know I've had friends, I was probably this way a little bit, where you weren't good at school for a lot of like the other subjects, and then all of a sudden you get into something, you're like, oh, this comes easy and natural to me. Like I like it just it's one of those things where everybody has strengths, and if they have the opportunity to get in and get that confidence level, I think too, that comes along with just being able to be good at something, right? Or at least show that you're improving and you're learning and chipping away at it a little bit at a time. uh that has to be a huge impact on a young person's life, that especially like in our industry too. Like that's, we talk a lot about that, where there's a lot of fall off of kids that come into this industry and work here for a year or 2 years and then are gone. And it stinks because maybe they aren't getting those, you know, those little confidence boosters as they go. And it's kind of the push you and throw you to the wolves type of scenario where, hey, we need you to start producing right off the bat. It's not realistic in a lot of cases. And I do think there are shops that are getting much, much better at accommodating those young people coming in. But when you and I were growing up in it, I'm guessing you probably had some similar experiences where it's just like, I learned the hard way. You got to learn the hard way. Good luck. And
It's
it can be challenging.
it's hard to get out of that mindset.
Yeah.
Like, with certain things, like, there was no YouTube when I was starting off. Like, I couldn't just, for a lot of the easier jobs, I couldn't just watch step by step as like some 17-year-old, went through and did, okay, here's how this timing belt's done. It's like, oh, cool. Oh, okay, great. Like, none of that existed. You had to read it out of text, out of a Chilton manual, or the motor manual or whatever. And you had to follow those steps perfectly the way they were written out. And in the old days, I would have said, like, if you want to be in my class, great, bake me a cake. Here's the recipe. Show me you can bake me a cake. Okay, you can follow the directions good enough to where the cake turned out and it's tasted good. Fine, we'll let you pick up a wrench. Follow the directions as they're written. Nowadays, with the AI stuff, where kids can ask the computer the questions. Like, you don't even have to know how to type. You can just say it out loud and the computer talks back to you. Um, the the videos on how to do everything. I've done that myself now, where, in fact, just yesterday, we've been making a bunch of YouTube videos of me doing demonstrations of jobs around the shop. And then I can copy the transcript that gets auto-generated for the video. I can dump it into this Google Gemini thing, and it spits out, and say, make me a Canvas quiz out of this transcript, and the questions spit out, and I just put it over into Canvas, and it's done. I made like 9 quizzes yesterday, whereas a few weeks ago, before I learned about this stuff, that would have been like 1 quiz a day would have been the max that I could have pumped out. It's insane.
It's a game changer for so many different things. And that is cool. I didn't know that that piece existed. I use, Chat GPT pretty much every day. And I think it's one of those things where the more you use it, the more you see other uses for it. And it is stuff like that, right? Where in that scenario, you're not having to go through and manually write up everything. Like there's an easier way to do it. And you could probably, I'm sure in that case, tweak it if you want, or tweak a question so it makes a little bit more sense, or, whatever. But man, what a game changer too, right? Like just for saving time and still getting the quality that you're looking for. It's really helpful.
I foresee a time where, yeah, you plug in the scan tool and it's going to run through everything in the car, and then it's going to probably just say out loud where to walk over in the car, which bolt to undo, which piece to replace, and just test everything for you again. Like it's like those Hunter alignment machines, like the Hunter Hawkeye one, where everything is, it's so automated, it's so precise. We're 90 seconds and you got the readings up. I think that all the equipment in the shop is probably going to end up being that way, where it's, you know, you need a little bit of training and then you can perform this job. And like the machines just need our arms at that point. Like,
Yeah. And it's cool. I think those that embrace that are going to have it's going to make life easier if they embrace it. And I do think there's probably still a fair amount of folks that are probably my age and older that are going to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I get it, but like if you have all these tools at your disposal that make your life easier, why not use them? Right? Like try to embrace them, try to make it a part of your daily life in a shop. And I think you're going to have a lot more success.
it kind of depends too. Like I tried to open up a Facebook account this week. I'm one of those computer illiterate people. Like I talked about how I used AI this week, but that was also a first. Um, I couldn't get the account to open. It told me I was banned and I'd gone against community standards. I was like, well, but I didn't have the account before. What did I do that's against the community I'm not part of the community. And and my wife, she ended up going, well, here, you can make a business page off of my account. I was like, okay, that's all I wanted anyway. And the students had them showing me how it was working. They're like, wait, why doesn't this appear on yours? And I was like, because everyone says that. Whenever I get near a computer, everything goes wrong. The things that work for everybody else don't work for me. And I totally get it if one of those guys is like, I'm not
Oh, I
doing
do
that.
too.
I'm not getting into this. Like, this is the way I've done it. This is the way I've always done it. And it's like, you know what? The computers probably aren't for you anyway. They probably hate you the way they hate me. Like, you do you.
It's very good. That's good advice and totally true. I totally understand that too. Well, as we're getting close to wrapping up the podcast, I did want to tie it back to Hot Rod High School because it is very interesting to me. And you could tell by the way I got so carried away by it right off the bat. It took us a long time to even get to your personal story, which was pretty fascinating in itself. But when you're looking at this, who is your student for this? So you've got your job as a teacher at a high school, and then the Hot Rod High School is it's separate, or is there some kind of tie together with it?
No, yeah, they're completely separate.
Okay.
Two different things, which allows me to be. There's so many like legal things that you have to do when it's teaching in a high school, and so many boxes you have to check, and everything has to be so oriented in the perfect ways. It's so nice. It's a breath of fresh air, that part, because you get to be creative in the business. I don't have to ask anyone for permission for anything. If I want to do it, it's done. I couldn't bring a bunch of, a fleet of mini bikes, little 50cc mini bikes in here and be like, we're going to work on these now. Like the school would flip if we were to do that. Um, but yeah, it's something that works out really, really well.
Is it primarily? Are you seeing that it is that homeschool market or those homeschool students? Is that primarily who you're getting, or are there other opportunities or other students that you're seeing that might get that same opportunity?
Yeah, it's for anyone. It's It's for anybody who wants to take it. Like my first ever person who actually bought a kit from me was a shop owner who he was in and it was like an accounting business. Um, but AI had pushed him out of business. Like everything that he was doing for his customers, people could just get done on AI. And he was so irritated by that that he wanted to look into a business that AI could never take away from him. And he chose an auto shop. And the thing was, he didn't know how to work on cars. He had never worked on cars. And he just figured he was going to buy the business, he was going to buy the equipment, um, get the shop set up, and then he was going to hire good mechanics, and he was going to lean on them for what to do. But the first mechanic that he hired quit on him a week before they were supposed to open.
Oh no.
Um, and he ended up seeing, so the videos that I've been making, I put a little blurb about Hot Rod High School at the end, but he saw that little blurb at the end, and so he called me up, got my phone number off the website and called me and asked if he could be a student. I was like, well, sure, it's for anyone. I've marketed it toward, like, if you're a high-end fifth grader, really good motivated fifth grader, you could probably get through this course. It was designed as really a ninth grade is our sweet spot. There are some core principles that you'd see going all the way up to 12th grade. So it's one of those fifth to 12th grade courses. And for him, he needed to know the basics beforehand. And he had been watching my YouTube videos and decided to order one. Um, and that was the first kit that I ever sold. So yeah, it wasn't even to somebody in the homeschool
Wow.
age. Um, and yeah, I've been still keeping up with him, kind of going along with his journey. It's been a rough patch because uh, yeah, his shop only just now opened up just about a month ago, and he's keeping up with it and fighting the good fight. But
Good.
it's some people have that thing. Like I couldn't get into that business without knowing it first, though.
Yeah.
I'd want to work in a shop um, first, and then see how the
Have some
insides work.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I commend him for doing it and wish him all the luck and success. And
Hmm.
people like that are going out of their way to try and find some help like you're providing. I think those are the kind of people you can root for, right? Like they're the ones
Hmm.
that you want to see do well. So that's pretty cool. So then like how long does it go? Like is it how is it broken up?
So I designed it off of being like a 90-hour course.
Okay.
Um, that might be misleading though in reality, because when I think of a 90-hour course for a high school, I got I got to take attendance. I got students that are going to come in late. We got getting everyone settled down, going over the curriculum for the day, getting cleaned up at the end, taking out and we have little sample repair orders that we fill out every class period, filling those out, getting them turned in, getting your belongings, and being ready for class to end. Um, so an hour in my world might only be 40 minutes in a homeschooler world because they don't have those
The
extra
other
steps they have
things.
to take. Yeah. But the idea was for it to be a 90-hour course. We start with safety, and then I jump really heavy into Mike Rowe's sweat pledge. So there's 12 videos that go along with the sweat pledge, and then I have a quiz that I made to go along with each one of the videos because I want to hammer in all that stuff, and then they get directed to his website because that's one of my personal things, like awards that I want to have on my shelf is I want to have a student get awarded Mike Rowe's the work ethic scholarship.
That's
um,
cool.
and that's, yeah, if I can get a student that gets that. And so all students that go through any of my programs get directed to his website at some point to see if they can get that scholarship. um is yeah, that'd be a crowning achievement. From there we go into like electrical, and we do some certification testings. We use My Career Tech, their homeschool program, for the certification side of things. um and yeah, want to eventually offer more robust certifications, but for right now, that's what we were able to do. And then they get into the ones where, the actual hands-on labs, and that was by design too. Is I front loaded it with a bunch of stuff that's not hands-on, because it takes about 3 weeks, sometimes up to 4 weeks, for all the parts of the kit to arrive to them. And so here's what you can do while you're waiting for the kit to get there. And then the idea is that about the time that the kit arrives, you've gotten to the stuff where, okay, here's my video demonstration of how to do the first lab, and you start doing your hands-on assignments from there.
And I am so impressed with what you've put together. I was able to watch a couple of your YouTube videos, and uh, you're you're natural in front of the camera. You do a really really good job
Oh,
with
really?
that. I
I
think
didn't know.
I think you do a really good job, and it's not an easy thing to do. So I think you do phenomenally well. I also look at like I talk a lot about this with our WrenchWay content, and that my co-founder and I both came from we came from small towns not far from each other, both around 2,500 people, and we had a wood shop class, but we didn't have anything in the way of automotive. And so I talk a lot about how out of my graduating class of 50, there's probably I think 4 or 5 of my classmates that are still technicians to this day. And so, out of that small class, there are kids that are interested in this and that don't have access to opportunities like this. And I just look at it, and even from my own family shop side, and say, all right, what if maybe we do 1 or 2 scholarships to some kids at the school per year to do this, because that might stoke that fire for that younger generation that might not have the means to do something like this or whatever. I think there's a huge opportunity for those of you shops that are listening out there to maybe do something like that, where you could provide a scholarship of some type to and relatively inexpensively for a shop to be able to do this and have an impact, like Bryan was talking about with his own, like the impact he has on his own students. You could have an impact on a young person to get their feet wet in this industry, in an industry that sometimes, if you don't have connections in the industry or you don't know people, it can be difficult to get into or intimidating to get into. And so I just think as you're building this out, there are so many opportunities here and so many different things that you can do, that you are doing to have a positive impact on young people. And I sure hope we can help you spread the word on this, because I think what you're doing is phenomenal. I think it's really cool. And we'll make sure we put the links out to your information in the show notes. And man, I hope we can get a lot of people behind you on this, because I think you've got a really really good idea, and I think there's a lot of good to be had out of it.
And I love hearing that, and thank you very much. It's uh is a really very touching that, yeah, you guys believe in me like that, because it's been a weird road. It's been a hard year for sure. Um, One thing that I've kind of come up with is that, Mike Rowe had another thing, and I always go back to him, but
That's
talking
a good one to
about,
go to.
yeah, but talking about bridging the skills gap. And I always kind of thought, I was like, I'm a high school shop teacher, like it's my job to bridge that gap. So, pat on the back, I'm doing it. Um, and realized, like, no, there was more that I could do. Like, I could amplify this, and I could do something more. Um, if I could, real quick, talk
Yeah.
to the other teachers out there, the other shop teachers especially, um, about, because everyone's dealing with budget stuff. That's the other reason why I had to do Hot Rod High School, is because I went and talked to my career and tech ed director, and I told him, like, I got a 3-year waiting list for kids to get into my class. Like, the kids are all seniors by the time I see them now, because that's when they first are. They're signing up 3 years in a row, and finally, when they're a senior, they get in. Like, the thing is popular. We need to open up another shop class. Our district has so mismanaged their money that we're $10 million in the hole for the second year in a row. And they're like, there's no way we're going to open up another shop class. And so it was up to me to figure out how to open it up on my own. So this is what I came up with. But one thing I did last summer was I just went around to a bunch of the shops that were in the area and just went door to door, and I had got one right here, had this little like display tray that showed a bunch of the projects we do in Hot Rod High School, and had that in one hand and an engine in the other hand. And I made this like Shark Tank style presentation and went around to these shops to talk to them. The shop owners, I think mainly because it was the Shark Tank style presentation, we don't spend enough time treating those guys like the important people that they are, and with the respect that they absolutely deserve. By going in there and showing them that level of respect, but also at the same time, I was asking for their money, and I was offering nothing in return except that I would use the money to help train more kids. And that if you wanted to be known as somebody who was doing what, everyone complains about the technician shortage, and you want to be able to look like you're actually doing something about it, here's a way of putting your money into actually fixing the problem. And that's all they wanted to hear was, here's where I can put my money to fix this problem. And Smart Service Subaru jumped on first and gave me $1,000 to buy kits to teach kids. Carter Motors jumped in with $2,000 and bought more kits. And then Stack Auto Rebuild, they jumped on with another $500. I ended up buying a bunch of these kits that I'd made up for my students. And then every Friday, I've got 20 to 30 kids that show up for Friday afternoon. Actually had to tell them all, like, you can't come today. We gotta
I screwed it up.
Yeah, it moved into their space. They're okay. It's a sunny day in Washington. They're having a fine time. But every Friday we meet up every afternoon. I get just this group of kids that's really into everything that we're doing in automotive, and it clears out the room from the kids that want to be like the class clown and all that stuff. And that's all these shops needed to hear. And so that's what I would tell you to do. And anybody who wants to reach out and contact me, any other teachers or anything like that, I will give you a copy of my little PowerPoint that I put together. And it's just the last slide. You just insert a name of a different auto shop, and then you practice it. You go in there and you give your pitch like you're on Shark Tank, and you treat those guys like they are the multimillionaires that a lot of them are. And you say, this is how you could help. That's all they want to hear. And yeah, there's no shortage of money that people will put into a good cause. You can't be trying to line your own pockets with it, but if you really need help in your classroom getting tools and equipment, there's people out there that'll help you.
There absolutely are. There are a lot of really, really good people in our industry. And I think you're giving an avenue to do some good things, and we'll do whatever we can to support it and try to get the message out there as much as we can. But truly appreciate you joining us here today, and keep up the good work. You're doing some incredible things. We appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
That wraps up another episode of Beyond the Wrench. If you liked this episode, please show your support by rating and following the podcast. You can also watch the video interviews on WrenchWay's YouTube channel. Speaking of WrenchWay, did you know Beyond the Wrench is managed and produced by the WrenchWay team? WrenchWay is an online community dedicated to promoting and improving automotive and diesel careers. We help technicians find the best shops to work at, and we also help auto, diesel, and CTE instructors get more support from local industry. You can learn more by visiting wrenchway.com.